Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking a close look at a moment that really defined more than just a sports career.
Hmm.
It kind of kicked off a huge cultural conversation. We're diving into the source material around the retirement of the Australian cricketer Usman Khawaja.
Right. And his final press conference, it was. It was so much more than a simple goodbye. It was, this really verified document of a very complex legacy.
It really was.
And what's so remarkable about this source material is that it shows you a public figure right at the peak of their influence. I mean, a retirement announcement gets a lot of attention, and he's choosing to define his own story.
Exactly.
So our mission here isn't just to, list off his stats. It's to really analyze how Khawaja blended his incredible sporting achievements with the surprisingly direct social criticism. It's a case study in using your platform.
That's the perfect way to put it. We've got a whole stack of articles, interviews, official statements, all detailing the announcement. And we need to unpack that precise blend you mentioned. The sports history, the emotion, and that really powerful social critique he delivered.
Yeah.
This deep dive is all about giving you the shortcut to understanding why this one retirement became, front page news, not just back page sports news.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the logistics, just confirming the verified details straight from the source.
So Khawaja has announced he's retiring from international cricket.
Right. And it's effective immediately after the fifth and final Ashes test.
And the setting for that is the Sydney Cricket Ground, the SCG. I mean, the symmetry of that is just remarkable, isn't it?
It really is.
We're talking about a 39-year-old batter who's given 15 years to this. 15 intense years at the top. That's just a marathon of commitment.
It certainly is. And, when we look at the emotional part of his speech, even before the stats, you can feel the weight of those 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
He spent a good chunk of his time just expressing this really deep gratitude. And it didn't feel like, rote language. You could see he was acknowledging the memories, the friendships.
For real human stuff.
Exactly. And just the sheer amount of personal growth that can only come from dedicating your entire life to an elite sport.
He also made a point of honoring that sort of invisible support system, didn't he?
He did.
He specifically thanked his family, his supporters, the people who stood by him. And when you're at that level, the sacrifices your family makes, the travel, the public pressure, it's immense.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that really grounds the whole thing.
It does. It absolutely does. It sets the stage perfectly by reminding us this is a person, not just a set of statistics.
Right.
But to really get the impact of what he said next, you have to appreciate the scale of his performance.
Yeah.
The weight of his social commentary is, I think, directly tied to his undeniable success on the field.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the stats are just elite. They are the verified proof of his standing in the game.
Yeah.
So give us the data. What is the sporting legacy we're talking about here?
Okay, so Khawaja finishes his career with 88 test matches.
88. That's nearly 90 high-stakes international games. That's a massive workload.
A huge number of days spent representing his country. And over those matches, he scored more than 6,200 runs.
6,200 runs. That puts him in a very, very select group in cricket history.
It absolutely does. But what really cements his status, as one of the great Australian batters is his average. He kept an average in the 40s, around 44, specifically over that whole time.
And for anyone listening who might not be deep into Test cricket, can you just frame what an average like that really means?
Sure. Think of it like this. An average in the 50s is for the absolute legends of the game, like the Don Bradmans of the world.
Right, the gods of the sport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But an average in the 40s over a long career, especially for a guy who often faced the new ball, it just signifies sustained, consistent excellence.
So he was reliable.
Incredibly reliable. It means that over 88 matches, he was consistently one of the best batters on the planet. And he racked up 16 centuries.
16 times scoring over 100 runs. That's the mark of a dominant player under pressure.
It is. So this legacy is built on hard, verified numbers. And to loop back to that symmetry you mentioned,
The SCG.
the source material really highlights it. His debut and his final international match are both tied specifically to the Sydney Cricket Ground. It just creates this perfect narrative bookend for his career.
A really poetic sense of closure.
It's symbolically so powerful. It allowed him to deliver this final, really important message on the very ground where his story began and ended.
Hmm.
And again, you have to understand the scale: 88 tests, 16 centuries. Because when a player of that caliber speaks on something difficult, people have to listen.
The media, the public, the institution itself.
Exactly.
And this is where the whole conversation just pivots dramatically. We move past the scorebook and straight into Australian culture.
What's fascinating here is how deliberate that shift was. He engineered it in that press conference. He refused to let the moment be only about the past.
Yeah, he made it about the future.
A key feature was his extremely frank commentary on racial stereotypes and the biases he felt he experienced his whole career.
And he wasn't using coded language. Our sources confirm he came right out and said it. Australian cricket is still very white.
Right.
And that's not just a comment on demographics, is it? That is a sharp critique of the institutional culture.
That's the key distinction. He wasn't just talking about who's on the field. He was talking about who's in the boardrooms, who the coaches are, and crucially, who's in the media.
The commentators.
He pointed to these persistent biases that he felt he had to endure from, certain parts of the cricket commentary world and the public.
I remember the reports about that flashpoint earlier in the Ashes series. Can we dig into the specifics of the bias he was talking about? Because the specific example, it hits harder.
For sure. So Khawaja has often been a target of this kind of scrutiny, and the sources point specifically to criticism he got after a minor injury during a key moment in the Ashes.
Okay.
And the issue wasn't just the injury itself, it was the type of media response. It wasn't just about recovery time. Some of the commentary questioned his toughness, his commitment, his Aussie grit.
Ah, those stereotypes.
Stereotypes that are often unfairly thrown at players from diverse or sort of non-traditional backgrounds.
So the debate wasn't just about his fitness. It was infused with these racial undertones about his character. That is a huge difference.
A massive difference.
And to achieve what he did, 88 tests, 16 centuries, and still feel you have to use your last moment in the spotlight to address this stuff,
yeah,
it just speaks volumes about how deep those issues run.
It does, and the sources confirm his intention here was explicit. This wasn't just airing a personal grievance, it was strategic.
Right.
He used his retirement speech to stress how vital it is to challenge this stereotyping and to actively work to create a fairer, more inclusive environment for the next generation of players.
Especially those from diverse backgrounds.
Particularly those from diverse and minority backgrounds, yes.
He was basically calling for structural reform on his way out the door.
That's it.
And that explains why these comments just exploded outside the sports bubble. News outlets that never cover cricket were analyzing his speech because its significance was entirely cultural.
He turned a sporting milestone into a platform for a national conversation. Which, of course, brings us to the so what of it all, the lasting impact he hopes this leaves.
He's pretty much drawing the blueprint for his own legacy, making sure he's remembered for more than just being a great batter.
Mm-hmm.
He's asking to be remembered as a catalyst.
Precisely. Khawaja said he hoped his own journey, which was, challenging, navigating wickets and cultural bias, would serve as a kind of beacon. He spoke directly to young people who feel different or underrepresented. He urged them, especially those from diverse backgrounds, to pursue the sport, knowing that someone at the top saw them and was speaking for them.
It's the ultimate synthesis, really. He took the cold, hard facts of his career, the 6,200 runs that prove he was world-class, and he leveraged them against his own lived experience of bias.
And wove it all together.
Wove them into this single, cohesive final statement on the culture of the sport he spent 15 years mastering. That's not just a retirement, it's a mission statement for the future.
And that is exactly what this deep dive has delivered to you. It's not just the news that an athlete is leaving, but the full analysis of the moment itself.
An athlete using their final stand to push for systemic change.
That's it.
So to recap, we verified through official sources that Usman Khawaja's retirement press conference was this emotional capstone to an elite 15-year career. Remember the numbers, 88 tests, 16 centuries, but also a calculated, powerful platform for social criticism about race in Australian cricket.
He proved that the end of one story can be the best way to start a national conversation. And this leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. This whole deep dive shows how a person's final official act can be used to set a legacy that's focused not just on past achievements, but squarely on future cultural reform.
Yeah, that's a powerful idea.
So think about this. How often do these moments of closure, a final speech, a farewell address, become the most significant opportunities for public figures to deliver a message that really endures? A message that changes the game on and off the field for everyone who comes next. That's definitely worth mulling over.